Hello everyone, my name is Abhilash and welcome to Credit Debit with Abhi. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Delta's status match challenge. If you've been someone who has thought about moving your status from one airline to another and you've just not gotten started because it seems like a convoluted space, this is the video for you. Without further delay, let's dive in. Let's talk about why I've decided to go ahead and do the Delta Status Match Challenge midway this year. I currently have Platinum with United. I mentioned this in the United Quest card review, that at one point in time I had 1K with United, but that's got bumped down to Platinum right now. And over the next year or so, I have travel coming up to both Asia as well as Europe. And in my perspective, Delta and its partner airlines just have better coverage in Europe, and United and its partner airlines have great coverage in Asia. As I think about how do I make all of this travel happen and travel comfortably if I can't use points to book business class flights, the answer to that is to have status, especially when flying to Asia. The chances of getting upgraded or getting better seats increases a little bit when you have the right status with these airlines. My plan is to take my Platinum status with United, request a status match with Delta in the 3 months that I get for complimentary status, and we'll get into that in a moment, cover off the MQM and MQD requirements to maintain status for a year and a half. And we'll get into the details here in a second. Now, before I did a little bit of research into the space, I thought that unless you have status with an US airline, you can't actually transfer it over to Delta. But I was mistaken. Not only can you take your status with US airlines like Alaska Airlines, United, American Airlines, and transfer it over to Delta through a status match challenge, you can also do it with some international airlines such as Air Nippon, British Airways, and a few others. I'll provide a link down in the description to all the airlines that can be part of the status match challenge. Now, there are 3 requirements for you to be eligible to participate in a Delta status match challenge. The first is that you haven't been a part of a status match challenge in the last 3 years. Every single airline that does a status match challenge has different requirements. I believe United's is 2 years, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. Number 2 is what I mentioned right at the top, which is you need to have current status with an existing airline. For me, it's going to be United, but like I mentioned, you can also do it with a couple of international airlines and pretty much all the other US airlines. And the third requirement is that you're able to provide a digital or a physical card showing your status with the airline that you're claiming to have status with, and a statement showing all of your flight activity with the airline that helped you accrue the status in the first place. So as long as you're doing these 3 things, you do qualify for a status match challenge. So congrats. The second step of the process is to submit your request online. This is actually fairly easy on Delta's website, but bear in mind that the clock starts ticking within 24 hours. That means you start accruing MQMs, MQS, and MQDs for flights taken 24 hours after you submit your request. So my suggestion here is, or at least that's what I'm planning to do, is book my flights well in advance before I decide to submit the request. And then make sure that once I take those flights after the time I submit the request are accounted for by calling Delta if I don't see it reflected in my account. The next thing we need to talk about is how does the qualification happen between United and Delta as it relates to matching your status up to silver versus gold versus platinum. The other interesting thing is Delta won't match your status beyond platinum. So you won't get diamond status even if you have the highest tier status with United, which is generally 1K and global services. And I think it's because Delta wants to know that you are going to be a loyal customer of Delta and actually do the same amount of mileage with them before they give you that status. So in my case, as I'm trying to match to platinum on Delta, let's take a look at what the requirements are. If you go to Delta's website, you'll be able to see that for a status match challenge, within the 3-month window where you get the complimentary status, you will need to do 18,750 medallion qualifying miles or 25 medallion qualifying segments and 3,000 medallion qualifying dollars. And there is an MQD waiver. This is part of the strategy with airline status is you get a co-branded credit card, and some features of the credit card will allow you to accelerate getting status with the airline. So in the case of the Delta co-branded credit card and platinum status, if you spend up to $25,000 on the Delta co-branded credit card, the MQD requirement is waived off. The other thing to note here is I think it's going to be difficult for people to do 25 medallion qualifying segments within a 3-month window unless you travel a lot, unless you're a consultant who travels a lot. It's going to be very difficult to get 25 medallion qualifying segments squeezed in. I personally don't do a ton of trips during the year, but I do longer trips during the year. So for me, I have to optimize my travel plan to ensure that I'm able to hit the MQMs and the MQDs. I also recently upgraded from the Delta Blue Sky Miles credit card to the Delta Platinum credit card using an upgrade offer I got in my account. But I don't plan to spend $25,000 on the credit card to get the MQD waiver. Since we're talking about status match between United and Delta, I think it's worth mentioning that if you have silver with United, it matches to silver with Delta. If you have gold with United, it matches to gold with Delta. But if you have 1K Platinum or Global Services, it matches to Platinum on Delta. Let us also discuss the timing of when you should go for a status match challenge. In my opinion, one should apply for a status match challenge after July 1st in the year. And the reason for that is, if I apply for a status match challenge, let's say on the 2nd of July, and I complete the status match challenge in the 3 months following, I get Delta status not just through the end of that year, but also the following year. So in this case, in 2023, if I complete the Delta Status Match Challenge starting July 2nd through September, I get status not only through January of 2024, but January of 2025. Instead, if I completed the challenge before 1st of July, I'd only get status through the end of 2023 or Jan 2024. So I think it's crucial to think about value to you when you're completing these sort of challenges. Read the terms and conditions on the website of the airline that you're trying to do a status match challenge with, and then figure out what your strategy looks like. I'm going to discuss an example of how you can plan to hit the MQMs and the MQD requirements for some of these status match challenges. And you will see that I've skipped the MQS requirement because I'm not going to be hitting 25 MQSs. So in this example, we are taking a flight from JFK, New York, which is where I'm based, to Amsterdam and back. The great thing about Delta is you can earn MQNs and MQDs even when you fly partner airlines. You have to make sure that when you're booking through Delta.com, that you're looking at TL marketed flights. When booking through Delta.com, if you see the flight marketed as either Air France or KLM only, those are flights I'd stay away from. Only flights that are marketed as DL would be the ones you should focus on. In this case, I'm looking at flights from the 7th of July to the 14th of July. And this flight is in premium comfort. And as you can see, this is operated by a partner airline. With this flight, I can earn about 11,000 MQMs and I hit the MQD requirement for Platinum. Now that's not going to be enough to complete the challenge, but I'll have a couple of other domestic flights that can help me get to the mark. The critical thing to also keep in mind is that different fare classes have different MQM elevations from the base levels. And then when you're flying with a partner airline, you get MQDs based on percentage of miles flown. Let's say you're flying 15,000 miles total. It's actually going to be 20% of those 15,000 miles flown, so about 3,000 MQDs. I'll link a lot of the reference articles that I spoke about from Delta's website in the description below if you want to take a look for yourself. But let me know what you think about a status match challenge and if you would ever compete in a status match challenge and what airline would you try to status match challenge to. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.